Today we have a very special guest. He was a childhood hero of mine. If you are watching us and you're a skateboarder, when I grew up skateboarding, Girl Skateboards was my favorite company. I watched Mouse every single day, twice a day for 4 years. And today we have Richard Mulder. And Richard, in my perspective, has been a perfect example of having a career in something like skateboarding and then going out to your next phase and finding not only purpose, but a way to really add value and thrive in what I would call your second life here. And so we're going to talk real estate. We'll talk skateboarding. Maybe we'll talk faith. We started off with Old Testament, New Testament. We're really trying to go hard on Michael today. But Richard, thanks for being here, man.
No, it's nice to be here.
What's going on? What's life like for you today?
Well, right now, I'm just in a season of raising kids.
How old are the kids?
I have a 16-year-old, I have a 14-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And so I feel like right now in parenting, it's just looking for rhythms. It's really hard to find rhythms, but try to be consistent. And then obviously no one gives you a blueprint on how to raise teenagers. So that's been really interesting. And also seeing you and your children. Right. Is really interesting. But yeah, just doing that.
It's interesting. Sometimes it's humbling, huh?
Absolutely.
Like I see some cool things that my kids do, but I see some things that they do that they pick up from me that are not, they're weaknesses of mine. It's like the most obvious, or maybe the better way to say it is it's like staring in a mirror and exposing all the things that you don't do well.
Question is, do you try to correct them on it or do you let it slide?
No, I try to correct them on it.
Do you try to correct it in yourself?
Well, that's how you correct it, right? That's one thing that I was told becoming a parent was your kids don't listen to a thing you have to say. They watch, right? So the things that they see you do are the things they're going to pick up on. And so if I'm sitting on my phone for an hour vegging out and then I'm telling them don't be on electronics, they're like, that's a contradiction. Yeah, so I think so.
Yeah. They say you reproduce who you are, not what you want.
Ooh, that's scary.
It's like it's just like they reproduce the good and the bad, right?
Right. So do you have anything that comes to mind that
like
you struggle with that your kids do?
Like we come from skateboarding, so there's always that rebellious part of us that even in parenting, like it just comes out. I don't know how to say it, but last night I told a funny joke. My wife didn't like it, and she looked at it, but me and my boys thought it was so funny. But it was in a way I was like, you know what? Shouldn't have said that, but it was funny. So yeah, but then there's damage control afterwards, right? So I think, I'm just still growing as a person.
Yeah.
I think skateboarding, there's just like an extended adolescence to it that we need to be delivered from constantly.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes I have to remember I'm a 47-year-old man, and there's parts of me that still feel absolutely stunted still.
Was that hard for you? Like when you went out of skateboarding, did you go straight into real estate?
No, when I went out of skateboarding, I actually there was a season where I tried just a bunch of different jobs.
Oh.
Like I worked at a skate shop, I did some printing, and then real estate kind of just it was just so circumstantial. So my friend Kevin Sturtevant, I was at a skateboard demo, and I haven't seen him in years. This is right around 2004. And he rolls up in like a BMW 6 Series. I was like, what does this guy do? Like, we came from Chaffee High School. Like, we're skateboarders, right? And then he comes out. I think he might have been even in a suit. And I just
real estate agent in Orange County, right?
Yeah. We all call him Kevin.
Yeah,
kids?
Kevion.
Kevion.
Yeah.
His real name's Kevin. Yeah.
Kev. This is Kev. So I've known Kevin since he was probably 13 or 12, and I was 14, 15. We were kids. And I'm like, I'm like, dude, what are you up to? He's like, oh, I sell real estate. I'm like, you sell real estate? And obviously, for me, dislocated my shoulder several times. I was already engaged to get married. So I'm like already trying to be Jamaican here, try to figure out like, what can I do? And I was like, oh, real estate, interesting. And then I was like, hey, dude, I have a suit. I just bought a suit for a wedding, and you're in a suit. Let's go have dinner and dress up. So for me, like wearing a suit was like dressing up. So we dressed up and we had dinner in suits. And then for me, it was like he was telling me about real estate. And, I think coming out of skateboarding, like the Southern California landscape.
Right.
So that was, I think, an advantage. Like, going into real estate, like, oh, I know where like Mountain and Foothill Boulevard is, or
Right.
from all the way from the Valley to Joshua Tree. You kind of know, right, as a skateboarder because of skate spots.
Right.
And then for me, it was like, dude, if he could do that, like if I could 360 flip and he could 360 flip and he could switch shell flip and I could switch shell flip, well, maybe I could do real estate if he could do real estate. So for me, that's how my brain worked. And he's like, dude, come check it. Kevin is very generous with his time and with his knowledge. And so he's like, hey, come. I'll show you what to do. And so that's how it all kind of, I came like the next weekend, I think, or the next Monday, and then I had to get licensed, of course, and then that's how I got into real estate. But it wasn't like the job, like I was dreaming it. Like when you want to be a pro skater, it's like, oh, I want to be a pro skater, or I want to be something else, or a fireman. It wasn't like I want to be a real estate agent one day. I think it's like number 42 on the list of like top 50 jobs, like that. It's not a job that people want. Actually, this is back in 2005 before like reality shows. Because now I know, like, I haven't even watched a real estate reality show. I think I might have watched 2 shows with Tarek and, the OG Flipper Flips. But I don't watch any of it. So I know my occupation now is, there's like a glam to it.
Right. There totally is.
Yeah.
Was that hard for you? Because that's how it was for me, too. Like, kid, dreamt about, getting sponsored, and then you turn pro, and you live this life that feels like a dream.
Yeah.
And then moving into what felt like a job, was that a big adjustment? Or did you find it a passion in real estate? Like, are you passionate about real estate, or do you just, I'm good at it and this is kind of how I make money now?
Yeah, I think for me, great questions. I think that for me, my passion doesn't, like, people have different passions. When you go into real estate, you could be passionate about the aesthetics, you could be passionate about commercial or residential. For me, I think I was always passionate about helping people. So that was where, like, I feel like my faith were tying in. Like, for me, like, it was, whether it was a mid-century or a Victorian home or just a regular, a traditional home, for me, it was like, hey, I actually helped that family or that person, like, transact real estate. For me, that was, like, very fulfilling, or still is. That's where I feel fulfilled. But no, I would say, especially when you're starting a new career, especially transitioning out of skateboarding, everything's a grind. It's not easy.
Right.
It's still not easy because, like, residual income. Sorry, like working in sales or in real estate, it's not a residual income job. So every January 1st, it is ground zero for me. For every realtor out there or every salesman out there, ground zero. We're gonna do it again. So it's a grind.
How do you plan for that? Like, do you plan for a down year, or at the end of the year, like, you don't know what next year is going to be like? Especially like in now, maybe it's starting to ease up, but as we started seeing a slowdown when rates drove up,
yes.
Did you get concerned? Did you start worrying about reserves, or were you like, I'm going to be fine through this?
That's a great question. For me, I think no matter what the markets do, like the real estate market does, I think people are always going to get divorced. People are always going to get married. People are also always going to get job raises. And it's about servicing those clients. Now, I think also the way I've been taught in real estate is you have to trust the basics. So, right, we always say real estate is a numbers game, or it's a contact sport. So at the end of the day, though, you could know everything about contracts, and you can know everything about negotiating. However, if you don't have a client to practice, you're not in business. So I think at the end of the day, real estate, in terms of residential real estate, it is a lead generation business. And I think that momentum comes as you are in the business. So I'm in 20 years in real estate now, and so a lot of my customers or clients is past clients' referrals from the 20 years of being in the business. If you're brand new and you're thinking about joining real estate, ground zero, you're going to build that book. You're going to build that sphere where they know, hey, so-and-so sells real estate.
Right.
And that's hard.
So I've noticed that a lot of skaters, it seems like a lot of skaters get into residential sales.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they need to know going in? Like, what are the parts that are going to come natural to skaters? Being obsessive the obsessive creatures we are.
Yeah.
And what are going to be some of the challenges as skaters step into potentially going into this industry?
Yeah, I think what will help the pros about skateboarders in general going into real estate is just their ability to fail, or the way we take failure, because there's a lot of failure in real estate and you can't take it personal. Like, we don't land a 360 flip, you're not taking it personal. It just is what it is, but you're one step closer to success. That's how real estate is. So there's a lot of uppercuts, like Kevin would say, in real estate. So that is a big advantage in, like, I think in sports in general, just knowing how to fail, and being resilient in failure. And then I think everything else, the technicalities of contracts, contingencies, all the stuff that makes realtors look smart, I think all that stuff you'll learn in time. But I think what's important to be a good real estate agent, or even a good salesman in general, is, are you client first? Because just like with any other industry, people are not client first. You have your own intentions, your own bills.
Right.
Like, am I going to put my own family or my own bills, which are real, which are legitimate, and there's that temptation to not do good business. But only at the end of the day, only you and God knows, how you're doing business.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have to learn sales, or did you feel like that came natural?
You know what? No, it didn't. So I think being social kind of comes natural, but I think sales could be taught. But they say some things are taught, some things are caught. So, you could be a smart guy, but if you don't know how to be, you could be socially awkward. If you're socially awkward, real estate's just not the job for you. And that's okay. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong with you. It's just you have to be okay with being social when you're doing real estate.
Right. So you think maybe the extrovert thrives in something like real estate sales, or if you're introverted or just struggle around people, you're maybe going to have a harder time.
Correct. And I'd say if you're more introverted, then maybe going into another area of real estate, go get your broker's license and become an appraiser, or go do something more behind the scenes. But if you're going to do residential sales, because, you and I, commercial and residential are two different things.
Right.
You need to get used to talking to strangers.
Yeah, that's right.
And having crucial conversations.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, you're navigating people's emotions.
Yes.
Right? Like, if he has to deal with a divorced couple, that's not an easy transaction. Like, you got to know how to socially navigate through those waters.
Yeah, commercials.
And that's an art form in many ways.
Yeah, I agree. Commercials so numbers based. There's not a lot of emotion in it. I guess once you get to a certain level, there's not.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's awesome. I think it's awesome. For me, residential real estate just fell upon me. Again, it wasn't like, oh, I want to be a realtor one day. It's just, like you said, transitioning out of pro skating, it's definitely a real hard thing. And so everyone's trying to figure it out, trying to scramble. At the same time, bills aren't slowing down. And so I have a tremendous amount of empathy for those who are trying to navigate through, a difficult transition.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, the transition's hard just in general.
Yes.
We just experience it, I think, younger than most people.
Yeah.
Right? We have our midlife crisis at 28 to 32.
Yeah.
So that's definitely hard. Michael's wife's does she still sell real estate? She does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there when
she's
when
not having
when her
babies.
clients have transactions, she'll do them at
Yeah.
this point. But yeah,
Yeah.
we've got kids on the way.
Yeah.
Another thing with real estate, which can make someone successful or non-successful, with real estate, you have to be all in. Meaning, if you could fall back on your dad's furniture business, or you can go, if there's another way to make money, you're more likely to be less successful.
It's not a side hustle.
It's not a side hustle.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, just my mindset was like, I'm going to get licensed, and this has to work. Also, when it comes to then in transactions, like, this has to close. Like, I'm not going to get excited over like, oh, I have a seller or a buyer. No, we're going to go all the way to close.
Yeah.
And so that's a mindset. But if you have another option of like, hey, this is a side hustle, or I'm going to dabble in this, well, you're going to dabble your way right out of it, because you're going to realize it's very tumultuous.
Do you think that's the case in a lot of different industries, or do you think it's specific to real estate?
It's probably in everything. Probably the same thing with commercial, right? Or with any business, I think, small business.
Yeah.
Real estates are real estate agents, though, are very common for people to try as side hustles.
Yeah.
Because you get licensed, you can hang your license at a brokerage house. And then if and when somebody you know happens to want to sell their house, you'll just jump in and do the deal. And so they'll just, you know, take them as they come and try to maybe put in a few hours a week. And like anything else, if you're not going to be all in on it, it's not going to work out for you, especially something like real estate. Because when you start as a real estate agent, there's actually like quite a runway to get to before you start, maybe even close your first deal. Like I think the average is 5 years for new real estate agents before they close their first deal.
That long?
I think that's the average, and I don't know if it's national or California, but it's a long runway.
I think it took me 4 months, and I kept calling this. I'll never forget. It was a home right outside of Fontana. Actually, it might have been Fontana. I kept calling this Vietnam veteran, right? And he's totally right. It's hard. I mean, you're learning a 360, a switch 360 flip, because you're in a whole different now. You know, you're learning a whole new skill set. But you know, no sale is ever possible without rapport being established. So, you know, at the end of the day, the reason why he chose me than the other realtors, because I think it's a realtor at the end of the day needs to know how to establish rapport with the buyer or seller. Like, can they trust you? Do they feel comfortable enough to do a transaction with you?
Okay, so if you're going to be a real estate agent and you have to create rapport before you really can sell anything, how do you go about doing that?
So selling is not telling. Selling is a series of questions asked, right? And so when it comes to selling, right? So back to like the reason why my first sale, the reason why he chose me, because he's like, wow, Richard cares about my life. Because guess what? When we talked, we weren't talking about real estate. We weren't talking about the home, like the highs and lows of what prices are doing in Fontana. We're actually talking about the Vietnam War. We're talking about some of the trauma he went through, and I could relate coming from a military family. And so I think a lot of selling is also a lot of listening, like the ability to also repeat and approve what someone's saying, because you know that's when they know you're actually listening.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I know sometimes I think the guys that are just natural sales guys, where it comes easy to them, I think sometimes that becomes the challenge for them, is they're so good at just communicating and they focus on the dollars that could be made, and they forget that people just want to work with people they like.
Yes.
Right? Building the relationship, I think that's a valuable lesson that I'm not sure enough of us put at the priority it needs to be at. You know?
Yeah.
That's a really good one. That applies to everything.
Yeah, I think life's about relationships. Yeah. At the end of the day, when we're all on our deathbed, right? Like, we're not going to say, let me look at my 401k or the real estate I acquired or blah, blah, blah. We're going to look at, like, how was the quality of my relationships and how did I steward them? Life is about relationships, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
And that can we don't need to compartmentalize that. We could bring that into everything we do.
So why is that a struggle for people then? If that's why we're built, I mean, I agree with you, like we're built for community. How come we miss that one?
I think that comes down to faith.
Yeah.
Because I think God's the author of relationships. So at the end of the day, if we don't know how to have relationship then with our higher power,
right, or
God, right, then how can we know how to have relationship with others?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Have you always believed in God?
I grew up in a home that went to Easter service and
CEO. Is that what they call it? CEO.
Went to Easter. We went to. My grandfather, like, he has a story of why he believed in God, and so I remember him always like reading his Bible. Like, my grandfather was a prisoner of war in Nagasaki, fought in the Dutch army, born in Indonesia. And so he fought in the Dutch army, so he's fighting against the Japanese when they were invading Indonesia. And then he was like floating. He got captured. He was floating on this in the middle of the ocean, and then he had one chance to like catch this net to rescue like these people floating in the Pacific, and then he just felt like he was just the mercy of God to grab it, kept him alive, and he's like, God, I'm going to give you my life. And so from there, my grandfather had just like this spiritual experience with Jesus. Indonesia, there was a lot of Dutch missionaries that evangelized Indonesia at that time. And so, so it was like a Christian faith. And so I just kind of grew up around people with that kind of, with just, we didn't go to church consistently, But yeah, so no, there was like these seeds, but it wasn't until I was like 16 where I personally had to make a choice if I believed in God or wanted to journey with God through life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that's the decision that you made. So going through pro skateboarding, that you went through it as a believer, ultimately.
Yeah. My pro skating career for sure. So I came to have a belief in God like right when I was like right after like a tour, like the 1994 chocolate tour, and just for me. In the book of Ecclesiastes, that's Old Testament, right? Ecclesiastes? Yeah. It says that God put eternity in our hearts. And so the one way we can interpret that is that there's something in the human heart that only something eternal can fulfill or fill. And so I think for me, experiencing like what I thought was like my childhood dream or our childhood dream of being a pro skater and experiencing success, like, so, we get free shoes, we're getting paid, we're traveling. We're like, dude, we're skating with like our heroes, right? And then, but there's just still something missing. So now we're trying to, at least for me, I was trying to fill it with other things, substances, drugs, and then, but there's still something missing. And then my dad, he was in the Navy for 22 years, and he would have like these little Gideon Bibles that were like around the house. They'd give soldiers these Bibles just in case. My dad was in the Gulf War or Operation Desert Shield. I forget what it's called. Well, yeah, this is like 90, 91. And so I would pick up this little Bible along with my weed, along with my stuff. And I'd start reading this Bible. And I'd start reading the words of Jesus. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me, right? And I was like, wow, it's pretty narrow-minded. Like, how are you to say, like, you're the only way to God, right? And then for me, what did it was just the cross, like when he died on the cross. And so the best way I could explain it, like C.S. Lewis said, well, Jesus Christ, he's either a liar, a lunatic, or he's actually is the Son of God who died for the world to reconcile the world back to God, right? And so for me, it's like, this is about, so I feel like the planet's broken. And I feel like Jesus, for me, it made sense. I made common sense that, if there's sin in the planet and there's a debt to this sin, that Jesus Christ would carry that debt on the cross, pay for it, and that we could now be in harmony with God. And I just said yes to that.
Right.
And I know that, salvation's a work of a moment, meaning like, hey, saying yes to Jesus is a work of a moment, but growing in godliness or growing in a faith journey is a work of a lifetime. And I'm still growing,
right? Just
like I'm trying to grow as a parent, a father, a businessman.
Yeah. This is good for Michael. Yeah, we're always talking Old Testament, New Testament.
Yeah, I love the Old Testament.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So when you stopped skateboarding, did you have to struggle with purpose or identity or any of those challenges?
So for me, because like you said, when I came to faith, when I was in September 94, 16 years old, I was able to still skateboard all the way up until like 2005, 2006.
Right.
So I already knew, like even going to demos and in my skating career, that I'm like, my identity is not rooted in my talent.
Right.
It's not rooted in like my gifting. It's not rooted. My identity is rooted in whose I am.
Right.
I'm the Lord's. And so, and there's always that struggle, but we have to reel ourselves back in. And so also, I think when it came to like, you're not good anymore, or you can only do those 3 tricks, and then here comes, the next rad ripping group of skaters. It's like there is that like, whoa, and then it's like, oh, I actually do have an identity crisis, and I do like the way I'm perceived as like girl in chocolate, we're the best, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you're not the best no more. You're actually old and you can't skate. And so it's definitely like, that's where faith was very helpful for me, because the truth is my identity is not rooted in my gifting or my talents. It's rooted in, my maker.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that one was hard for me.
It's always hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's always hard. Like even in real estate, or in any career, like the temptation is to to find identity in like what we're good at.
Right.
Where, we can't, because everything's fleeting. AI could replace me tomorrow.
Right.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
AI has made a big technology's made a real big disruption in real estate in the last few years, where we have, different contracts. We're always having to like do things different. And, you know, we just, at the end of the day, our identity can't be rooted in what we do.
Yeah, so you find peace in that ultimately. As you start going through scary times, it's not so life-threatening anymore, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you involved with mess halls? Is it mess halls? Is that what
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
called?
So I started the mess halls.
Oh, you did?
I started the mess halls.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Me and Joe Gruber started the mess halls. So the mess halls is like a faith-based discipleship program, really. And so how it started was, I was at a skate park. I was at Van Skate Park in Huntington with my kids, my little kids. And this dude comes up to me, really random, and he asked me a question about God, like throws me off, right? And it's like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, and I answer it the best I can. And I was like, okay, that was cool. And then as I'm skating in the skate park, I really felt like, dude, why don't you like be his friend and ask him if he wants to like go to Corner Bakery and open the Bible and we'll read it and then we'll talk about how this applies to our life. Like, let's be applicable about the Bible, right? And so I was like, hey, dude, I don't know if this is weird or not, but like, you want to be friends? And, you know, we'll read the Bible and like maybe we could talk about how we could, this applies to our life. And so he said, yeah. And so from there, we started meeting at Corner Bakery once a week. Friends started joining. Lance started joining. Carlos Ribeiro, Gabriel started joining. And then COVID hit. Boom, COVID hit. And then we're like, okay, everyone's indoor. Like, no one knows how to use Zoom, right? And then I was like, hey, my friend Joe Gruber, he's a former pro skater. He was also a pastor at a church called All City in Portland, Oregon. He's like, hey, why don't we just do this online? And so we opened it online, and it was pretty cool. Like, at first it was like, I'm not like an online dude. Like, I don't go Facebook Live. I don't do Instagram Live. It as much as like real estate, like we have to be in front. Like, there's parts of me though that's kind of still feel awkward. Like, even being on this podcast feels very awkward, right? Just totally like honest. And but I was like, all right, let's do it. And so we did it, and it ended up being something that's been really meaningful for people. And it's funny because it's like when people walk in church, they feel like they got to be cleaned up. But going on the mess halls, what we do is I likened it close to like a recovery group. So we do what we call devotion, and then we do a dialogue. And so this is not mess halls is not monologue, meaning like just hear me talk and then see you next week. But we do a devotion for like 25 minutes, and then we open it up to we're like, okay, Mikey, what do you have to say about this? So there's a lot of like, we're all broken, right? And so people come on and they share their ugly, they share their wins, they share their losses, they share their breakthroughs and breakdowns, but we're all journeying and wanting to walk closer with God.
Do you guys still do it digitally?
Yeah, we still do it digitally, but this weekend we do it digitally. So Mess Halls is digitally. We meet on Monday evening, and then we do prayer on Wednesday morning, and then we meet on Friday morning. I lead the Friday morning. So we just did the book of Revelation. It took us over 2 years. We did it verse by verse, right? We did it verse by verse, and then right now we just finished another book in the Bible. But it's pretty cool, like honestly. But we're not to replace like traditional church or the local. So when I say church, I mean the big C, or I mean the church buildings. But it's definitely a supplement for those who live like who are just curious. Like, hey, what does it look like to journey with God? And so Mess Halls is a real safe place. And also like, dude, no judgment, no shame. We realize that people are struggling and it's tough out there.
Yeah. Is it all skaters?
No, it's not. So there are skaters. There's a lot of skaters, a lot of former pro skaters, but there's also a lot of whoever would like to come. Yeah.
How many people are part of it?
Let's just say, so on Friday mornings, we there's probably like 25, 30 people that come. I would say there's more, but like people are regular. Like we're consistent, you know, but, and then and then prayer, right? And then we have Monday night. So I don't know how many people are part of it actually, because you see people pop in and out all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not common in church to go verse by verse?
It depends on the church. There's some churches like Calvary is known for going verse by verse. There's churches that are a little bit more topical.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, like what he just explained, there's a lot of people that go to church on Sunday and that's it. There's some people that just go to church on the big holidays.
Yeah.
And then I think what most churches encourage is to get involved in a Bible study or a home group where you're like actually spending time going over it with other people, which that sounds like that's the opportunity you guys have created.
Yeah.
Let's bring a bunch of people together. Let's go verse by verse. So we're actually learning, but it's also, what are you going through and
Yeah.
how can we kind of help you through it?
Yeah. And then, but you asked like, so, but if we're going to talk about like how do we steward finances biblically, like you just can't go verse by verse. So that would be like topical,
Right.
Right. We'd be jumping around even like the Old Testament, and New, right. But,
Do you guys talk finances in
Huh?
the group? Do you guys talk finances in the
We
group?
do. We do, because obviously one of the biggest reasons why people don't want to come to faith, because like, oh, they think it's all about money, right? And I get that, right? Like I mean, you chew the fruit, spit out the seeds. I think in everything, like even in skating, you have people that misrepresent skateboarding. Same thing when it comes to like faith circles. There are people that misrepresent biblical finances. So yeah, we do try to talk about finances because I feel like there's been abuse around finances, but what do you say? Because there's been error, it doesn't mean we neglect something. Because there's something in error doesn't mean. So I think there's a lot of like, I think a lot of believers or faith-based people that are ignorant when it comes to finances.
Right.
So let's be equipped and let's know how does God look at finances? So yeah, we talk about it. We talk about it all.
Okay, so
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
hear about this. How does God look at finances?
Well, first of all, my favorite scripture when it comes to finances is, in the Old Testament, it is the Lord that gives us the ability to create wealth that he may establish his covenant on the earth. So finances is resources to put God on display, like in our lives, and to actually fulfill what God has called us to fulfill. So, and whether that's in abundance or whether that's in or not in abundance, but God will make sure that we have the ability to create wealth to do what you're on earth to do. And I think when you look at it from that point of view, like hey, heaven is for me, like having provision to do what's in my heart, what God put in my heart to do. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the biggest verses that's taken out of context is that money is the root of all evil. It's actually the love of money is the root of all evil, right? Talk about that one. Like, where is the correct balance between being responsible for money and loving money? Or, maybe as you start, you might not know this one as much, but there's prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that, God wants everyone to be wealthy. And if you're not wealthy, it's because you don't have enough faith in him, which I think is not correct.
Correct.
But how do you balance that one? How do you balance making money and being responsible with it and not being greedy and loving it?
Yeah, wow. So this is just me,
Okay.
disclaimer. But I feel like, so money at the end of the day is just a tool. It's a tool that represents our time, talent, and abilities that we get in exchange, right? And so I think, yeah, like you said, it's the love of money. And money, like anything else, can become an idol. And so I think when we think that money can solve our problems other than our higher power, or God, then you have a problem, because now money becomes idolatry. And so we all know that the things in life that really matter are priceless. And so I think what's really important to put money in its place. Like they say, what money is makes a good slave, but a terrible master, right? So then when we're working for money, like and your intention is to get money, but you don't really understand the reason and purpose of money, then you're never gonna really enjoy life or even enjoy the money, because you're abusing money, because money is just not for that reason.
Any different for you?
No, I would probably just add to it that for us, the moment that you attribute the source of your money, whether it's that you're wealthy or that you're not, as you and not something that's given to you by God, is the moment that it becomes toxic, right? Like, you are not the reason that you're wealthy. You're not the reason that you're successful. You're not the reason you have this house or this car or this office or this business. Everything you have was given to you by God. And the moment you lose sight of that fact and you no longer have gratitude and appreciation to God as the one who's given you those things, is the moment I think it goes into the comparison you were drawing earlier.
Yeah, that's good.
That's really good. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
So in real estate, we use debt,
Yeah.
right? How do you square that one? Because you have the verse about, debt enslaves you,
Yeah.
right? There's definitely there's people like Dave Ramsey that'll talk about finance that will view debt as horrible and stay away from it at all costs, except for a mortgage.
Correct.
What's your view there?
So I think me and you share the same views. Like I don't agree with the Dave Ramsey, and I'm not knocking Dave Ramsey. I think it's great for a certain type of profile, or a person, right, who's in debt or needs that. But I just do feel like debt could be leveraged, and also then I don't even think it becomes a debt. So like with a rental property, I'm sure you own a rental property. We own a rental property. There's a mortgage on it, but then the debt, the tenant is paying my mortgage and they're giving me a cash flow. So is it really debt? And so I do feel like debt can be leveraged when the numbers are done right.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that's, I feel like that's actually being a good steward rather than being, than looking at it as a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you just have to, excuse me, you have to separate good debt from bad debt.
Yes.
Right? There definitely is a debt that will take everything from you.
Yes.
That's the consumer debt that you want to stay away from, right? Purchasing things you can't afford, over leveraging. But assets is a different game, right? You're using other people's money to increase your return, considering the asset is beyond the amount of leverage you're taking, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a right way to do that, but there's also a wrong way to use good debt, right? Just because you're using debt on an asset doesn't mean you're being irresponsible to potentially lose the asset you're financing, right? So I think, like anything, you've got to do it well. Here's one. This might be controversial. You might not want to answer this, but
What a load up.
what I'll get this on social media is that you claim to be a Christian, but you're a capitalist, and Jesus would have been a socialist.
Yeah.
Your thoughts there?
So that's a great question. So I this is what I feel. This is I don't want to not stay out of politics, but at the end of the day, I always tell people, hey, what hill do you want to die on?
Right.
Like I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a socialist. I'm a Jesus follower. So that's the way I kind of look at it. Like, and we talk about this a lot. Like at the end of the day, like you need to know how much bandwidth that you personally are called to like speak into. Hey, I'm pro-life. Like I vote against abortion, right? But am I an abortion activist? Like do I feel led to be an abortion activist? Like standing in front of abortion clinics? That's not my That's not my bandwidth. That's not my calling. So I'm not on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I just feel like at the end of the day, we need to know what hill we're called to.
Right.
Like I think we talk about that all the time, especially around the elections.
Right.
Because I have great and wonderful Christians friends who are Democrat and Republican and independent. But at the end of the day, there's a hill greater than Capitol Hill. It's the hill of the Lord. I mean, again, this is where my faith comes into politics, and I think my faith helps me navigate through these like difficult things. Where I think people they do look to the church for those answers. Where I feel like we don't even need to answer them. I just don't even feel like because it is what it is.
Can you expand on this notion? What is it? Because if you're a Christian and Jesus was a socialist, therefore you being a capitalist is contradictory to Jesus' teachings? Is that the line of thought?
Yeah, that's the line of thought. And my perspective on it is actually not that. Like a lot of people will say, Jesus was not political. So that's number one. And honestly, that's a big reason I believe, and you can answer this better than me, why the Jewish people didn't view Jesus as the Messiah, because in the Old Testament, they viewed the Messiah as being a political ruler, right?
Okay.
But if you look at Jesus, it was helping the needy. He lived with the people that you weren't supposed to, live with or minister with, the tax collector, the people that were looked at as kind of trash in society. And he didn't have anything, right? Jesus wasn't like a wealthy person in the financial sense. But for me, I've always gone back to the parable of the talent is what it was for me, right? You know the parable of the talent, right? Somebody gets 1 talent, somebody gets 5 talents, somebody gets 10 talents. Is that what it is? 1, 5, and 10?
Yes.
And no. That's not what it is. Everybody's given a talent, right? So 3 guys are given a talent. And one guy goes out, uses his talent, and multiplies it to 10. The other guy takes his talent, multiplies it to 5. The other guy is so scared about losing it that he buries it. And then when, I don't know if it was his master or the guy who gave him the money came back, he goes, what did you do with the talents? And he says, bless you to the one who grew it to 10, bless you to the one who grew it to 5, and you who buried it, no. Like, curse you for that. That's not what I'm calling you to do. So I think there's a lot of arguments in the Bible that shows that we should be growing and increasing the responsibility we've been given. I think there's parts of socialism that go against the Bible. Like, the thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet. Like, I think those cut against it. But at the end of the day, I just think one system is better than the other, right? One system, I think, is responsible for bringing the largest group out of poverty. You don't get that out of socialism. So I just don't think socialism is a good system. But I don't think Jesus would even speak on a system. I agree with you in the sense that Jesus was focused on saving people, right? He wasn't focused on a system, but I do think there's a better system when it comes to benefiting all, and I don't think that's socialism. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that, in Jesus, he said the kingdom of God is at hand.
Right.
Hey, this is something that is something you could touch. And so the kingdom means the king's domain. He was like, hey, the rule of God is coming. I'm here. I'm going to make myself a sacrifice, atone. And now when God rules in his sovereignty, with that comes provision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I just want, I'm hearing you talk. I was like thinking like, man, I feel like, especially on social media, I think especially for Christians that are believers, I think like there's a lot of talk.
Yeah.
And I think what the world needs to see is more action. Like more action. Like, Jesus says, by your love for one another. I think Christians do well at talking. But then like, how are you loving the broken? How are you loving? Like how are you spending your time? How are you spending your money? Right? Like, I just feel like that's.
Or sometimes just listening more too.
Correct.
I mean, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
That's right. And so that's where I just feel like I think it's so important right now if we're going to put our faith on display to really show that the way we love, the way we forgive, the way we listen. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I think you're right too about what you're called for.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have all my beliefs.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm called to be focused on all of them as far as what I'm driving forward. I think you're placed in a position that is fitting for the talents you were given. I heard Jack Hibbs talk about this last week.
Yeah.
He was talking about Greg Laurie.
Yeah.
Right? And he was basically saying that Greg Laurie's an evangelist. I'm a teacher's pastor. Like, one of you is going to lead people to know who the Lord is. The other one's going to teach you what it is. He goes, I'm going to teach you what it is. I'm not the one that's going to do the altar call. And basically what he's saying is, that's my lane. Like, this is what I'm focused on. This is what I'm good at. I think that actually applies, just in the world in general. Like, what are you, like, in real estate, I'll get this one, right? Why are you building multifamily? Why aren't you building single family? People need homes. I agree with you. People need homes. It's not what I do. I focus on the apartments. If there's somebody that focuses on the homes, go do the homes. Like, I'm rooting for you. It's just not my lane.
Yes. And then I think on top of that, it's like, okay, so if you feel called to business or in real estate, but you're also a father and a husband, right? And so you have to also prioritize how you manage your time. And I think just because you're called to something doesn't mean you need to be like the rock star at it. Like, just you being there and being faithful with the measure of talent that you have, showing up, I think that is faithfulness as well. Where I feel like sometimes feel like they're called to something. You can be ultra success. Like, what are you fantasizing what success looks like? Because according to the Bible, old and new, success is obedience. It's not measured by by like material wealth.
Is this pushback though mostly from fellow believers in Christianity,
No.
or is it from people that are just trying to poke holes?
Generally speaking, the pushback that I get does not seem to be coming from Christians. It seems to be coming from people that are more socialist advocates that try to poke a hole in my belief system, is what I would say.
Okay, so because I faced it too. I mean, you've seen like me become more observant over the last 4 years now because I was very non-observant, and as I became more observant, when we go through our journey, it is a very slow process. Well, some people do it overnight. I don't think that's the right way to do it because there's so much to take on. For us, my wife and I decided to do it very slowly, where we would do one thing at a time. We started turning our phones off on the Sabbath, and then we would stop driving on the Sabbath, and then we started keeping kosher at home, and then I started wearing my tzitziot, and so these things all happen in stages over a period of time. And I would get, fellow Jewish people, mostly that were kind of more culturally Jewish, looking at me and be like, dude, you're full of shit. You're so full of shit. Like, if you don't do all of it, you're doing none of it. What are you talking about? And I always thought about that one. That one was always interesting to me. And I just felt like it's just people trying to poke holes in what it is that you're doing instead of like having an actual argument from a place of good intent, so to speak.
Yeah, I think there's probably two factors to it, right? There's definitely one that is, if you're doing something that I'm not, for a lot of people that aren't strong in their beliefs, it makes them feel like they're doing something wrong. And that's not even faith, that's everything. Like, even when my wife and I started having babies, we decided to have them at home. The amount of blowback we got for that, because it was different, right? I think that's one part. And then I think the second part is, if you know that something's right, so let's just assume that I know that something's right and you're slowly getting there. I think some people struggle with allowing like God's timing to work in your life as opposed to them just trying to jam you there. Jamming you there doesn't work, right? And so that's probably what
we have less of that.
Oh, you do?
Every person that was very observant saw us going through our journey
And was stoked?
was beyond stoked and very much reinforced. Take it slow, do what's right, take it one step at a time. There's so much to learn that you want to do it at your pace that works, and make sure that you and your wife are not trying to pull each other too far in one direction. Because Jessica is farther ahead than I am in the journey. And so, that was something that everybody that's very, very observant, unbelievably supportive. It was mostly the non-observant community.
Well, that
But
sounds
I
right.
think they struggle with it because, like, for us, like, we have 613 commandments to live by. Like, there's a lot of rules.
I know. Why are you guys adding to it?
What's
up with that?
We're not adding anything.
Bro, it's 10, man.
No.
How'd you get to
No,
6?
no,
What'd you
no,
say,
no,
666?
no,
Is that what I heard?
Let's
Ooh.
skip over the debate for a moment.
But I want to say this. I think that even with the Old Testament and the New Testament,
I have 613 knots.
Oh, it's 613. Thank God.
613.
All right.
that's cool.
We have 613 commandments. It's a lot to take on, right? And so I think a lot of people struggle with, I don't want to do it, and I don't want to see other people doing it because then it makes me feel like I should be doing it too, almost to a certain extent. So I think, at least in my experience in Judaism, that's what I feel like I've been seeing more. I don't know that that's the case across the board. I'm just saying my experience.
Okay, not to hijack this, but how did you guys go to 613?
I'm not answering this question.
That's a lot.
No, but if you,
So
when
it's
you-
in the Old Testament.
The Old Testament.
There's 613
is
commandments.
Pretty serious about, and obviously we know as New Testament, they said the Old Testament was a tutor, to lead us to Christ because it's impossible. And that's why, for the New Testament, if you believe in Yahshua, it's like, no, Yahshua actually fulfilled that which they couldn't fulfill. And that was the goal of the Old Testament, to be like, wow, you're right, we can't do it. But even in the Old Testament,
Well, you can't do it today.
yeah, even in the Old Testament, the just even the old and the new, the just shall live by faith. And I think back to like what you guys are conversing about is that when people kind of look at us, they might think that there's a self-righteousness that comes from observing or even practicing, like, but we know like there is no self-righteousness because the Bible says that even for in Old Testament, Abraham believed God and it was accounted to him for righteousness.
Right.
So it was just believing. Like, and we know that even in the new, like we believe in the finished work. And so we practice not to attain righteousness, but we practice because we are righteous. We've been made righteous. And I think that's the difference. But I think when outsiders look like, oh, look at Mikey trying to make right choices, right? Trying to like, get closer to God. But no, it's like, no, it's more like, look at Mikey. He's already close to God. And out of him being his closest to God, he wants to make right choices.
Yeah.
See the paradigm?
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a sanctification process as well. It's a process. Right.
So even when it comes to money, right? Like, or giving, it's not like, oh, I have to give. No, you get to give.
Yeah.
Because you cannot outgive. Like giving, back to finances, like you can't outgive. Like that's the only place in the Bible, Old Testament, where you could test God. Even in the New. See what happens if you can outgive God. You just can't. Like literally, test him. The Bible welcomes you to test God in your giving. And so when I look at giving, it's like, no, this is an invitation to participate, not like a burden.
Yeah, I like that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So here's the 2 call to actions I want to give.
Yeah.
For anyone looking for a home, how are they getting a hold of you?
Oh, yes. No, my number is not mine. You could reach at me on Instagram, Rich Mulder, and just DM me.
Okay.
Or you could email me, Richard, RICHARD, at KaseRE.com, KaseRE.com, or my number is 949-375-3438. It's funny, I say
What
that because even on social media, like my sign's there, and I do get the weird calls like, hello, this is Richard. And then hang up. But it's part of being in sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. And what about anybody that wants to check out mess halls?
Dude, if you want to check out mess halls, go to messhalls.org and you could sign up and then we could send you a link, or before every Monday night or Friday morning or Wednesday, we'll send out a link in our story and you could just click on and check it out.
On Instagram?
On Instagram, yeah.
Okay. We'll include all that in the description.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
My man, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was really cool. It was really nice talking to you too. Sincerely.
Yeah, we're working on him. I'm gonna hit you up again.
That's awesome.
This double team press.
You're going nowhere with this effort. I'll tell you that much.
All right, my man. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Send me a comment. Is this stuff you want to see? Anything we said you agree with, disagree with? Let us know. And if you liked it, hit the like button. Just hit it for us. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.